Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Myles and Murph podcast.
I'm Myles.
And I'm Murph. And today we're going to be talking about
Red Dead Redemption 2. The greatest game of all time. Probably.
I would agree with that sentiment. I would say that's probably correct.
Number 2 on both of our lists, but realistically probably the best game ever made.
Well, because my top 10 list isn't the games I think are the best. It's my favorites.
I mean, it's at least better than Ocarina of Time.
I'm not even going to humor that with a response.
It reinvented the wheel for games with horses. I mean, have you seen horse balls in Red Dead Redemption 2?
You know, I thought you were going to go with a joke about Arthur breaking the goddamn wheel. I did not think you were going to jump straight to horse balls.
Guys, it was in...
I mean, it was literally in...
It's in trailers, probably.
Not the trailers, but before the game came out, they were like...
Guys,
we're doing this.
Horse balls shrink in the cold in this game. If that's not
realism, I don't know what it is.
So, I think that we get this out of the way. There's going to be heavy spoilers towards the end of this video, but we're going to do our best.
There's obviously going to be spoilers for just the game overall throughout the whole video.
We're going to do our best for the most part to keep the beginning portions of the video on just the regular content that we enjoy.
Not most of the story. Well, we're definitely going to talk about a couple moments.
We're going to talk about characters, obviously, a lot during this, because, you bond a lot with the characters. You spend a lot of time, obviously, interacting with all these characters, and it's going to be very hard to avoid talking about that.
And, maybe some, side missions and activities.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of that. But main story stuff, we are going to leave until the end.
This, probably more than any game we've talked about before, if you haven't played it yet, stop listening. Turn the video off right now. Turn whatever off. Stop listening. Go play it. I don't care. Buy it. Borrow it.
Play it on Xbox Game Pass?
Do it.
Screw Microsoft, but play it on Xbox Game Pass?
Do it in potentially not good means. However you got to get it. I don't care what you have to do. Get the game, play the game all the way through. When you've played it for at least 100 hours, then come back to the video.
I don't think that's necessarily...
No, it is. You need to thoroughly enjoy and experience this game. It is fantastic. It is wonderful. You can go back to it over and over again. It is just infinitely replayable. It's just amazing in every way.
The other thing I want to briefly mention is, in this video, we are not going to talk about the online mode. We are going to save that for another time.
For a later date, potentially.
For those of you that don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1, and it follows the story of Arthur Morgan, who is a member of the Vanderlyn gang that John was a part of during the events of Red Dead 2. And
John is also in the game, obviously, because it's a prequel. It's not like they just didn't have him around doing something else. He is there.
Yeah.
You interact with him, you help him and stuff.
At first, he's briefly not there, and then you're like, "Wait a minute!" And then you
have to go find him and stuff, and
you're in the snow. You find him. Ironically, it's the story of how he gets his scar, and then they joke and say that they're gonna have to come up with a better story.
In the game itself is separated into 6. I guess technically 8. There's 6 chapters and then 2 epilogue chapters.
Yeah.
So it's chapters 1 to 6.
Technically,
and epilogue 1 and 2.
Technically, that's 9. It's 9 chapters because even though it's post game, it's a separate. What
do you mean?
It's not actually 9 chapters, but I'm saying post game is separate from the 2 epilogues.
Oh, not really.
Yeah.
There's no new stuff after the post game.
Yes,
There's nothing new that pops up after that you couldn't do before.
The only thing I will say is I think they should have given more. They should have given more stranger missions during John.
I mean, it would have been cool, but I feel like if he had more stranger missions to do, then he would have less to do potentially in the first game. He would know more people.
Oh yeah.
So
let's get to that stuff later.
So I guess the part of the reason this game is so good, without talking too much about the story. First of all, the story is fantastic. We'll get into some details later.
This game is one of the most detailed experiences I've ever played. That's saying something. When I first played it, it was much later than after it released. It was definitely a few years later because I generally hop on a lot of big games sort of late. I don't generally, unless it's something I'm anticipating, I don't bite the bullet on a lot of new games right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, great example, I'm pretty sure I also didn't hop on God of War PS4 right away when it came out.
Neither of us did, yeah. I
think
think I got Red Dead.
I hopped on GTA 5.
I think I got
literally, like, if we're talking about story mode, I hopped on GTA 5 this year.
Which is not good, but...
Well, not seriously. I've played a little bit of GTA 5 story before this year.
Yeah, like 2 missions.
But that's not accurate.
Whatever.
I got up to grassroots as Michael, and then I put it down.
Oh, wow, like 6 missions.
Not the point. I had played a lot of GTA Online, but that's not what this video is about. I hopped on Red Dead 2 extremely late, and when I did, it became my life. It was everything that I cared about for the entirety of the time that I was playing it.
I believe around the time... I'm pretty sure
I own a cowboy hat now because of this game.
Yeah.
I own several cowboy hats now because of this game.
I think I got the game. I don't think I got it on release, but I got it pretty soon after it came out. I remember I was really upset because I got spoiled for like the ending pretty much. So I got up to a point before the epilogue, and then I just stopped playing it because I didn't want to have to deal with that ending. I had like 2 missions left and was like, I don't want to do this. And then you got the game, you got into it, and you playing it made me want to go back and play it again. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna finish the game.
Because it was funny, because I think that me and you restarted at the same time. Because if you remember...
Well, no, because you were playing through...
I had got like 75% of the way through. For those of you who don't know, Red Dead 1 and 2, much less 1, and I say that having played it, has high and low honor, which is like a karmic system similar to the Infamous franchise.
But better.
Yeah, it's better, but I only reference it because we've talked about Infamous already.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where basically the better decisions you make, the better characters around you will react to you. And that's a very reductive description.
You can pretty much... You can either
You can be a terrible person or a saint.
You can be a good person or a bad person, but unlike in Infamous, it's not just...
trivial decisions.
I'm making decisions because the game wants me to choose between this choice or this choice, and
you're making like generally moral decisions.
You can be an outlaw or you can be a good person. That's pretty much it. But it's also levels. It's not just like, oh, you can either be...
There's like a meter.
Yeah, it's not... And it has like a huge amount of variation. It's not like, oh, I'm good, slightly more good, or hero, and then bad, slightly more bad, and evil.
I think there are literally 8 levels of each.
I thought it was closer to like 10 because it'd be 20 each way, but
it might be.
It's somewhere around there.
One of them has and you unlock various things with different levels. But basically, there are 4 different endings for Red Dead Redemption 2, and they are... It's technically 2 endings, but it's 4 because of the honor system, where you can make a choice during one of the endings. You can make a choice during the ending, and your actual like final result depends on if you have good or bad honor. And I had bad honor, and I was, I believe, like 2 missions away from making that decision, if I remember correctly. Or I was just at a certain point during the last chapter.
You were far enough along that you told me about restarting to try and do it with better honor, and I was like, yeah, but you're so close to the end, why not just finish this playthrough and then just start over anyway?
And I said, no, I want to commit the right way from the beginning. Because the other thing was I was losing the spark of playing. Like, yeah. I had been setting it down and picking it back up and setting it down and picking it back up. Because I was more interested in doing stuff in the world than actually playing the story at that point.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, though, considering how good the world is.
Well, yes, but
like that's one thing I will say. Some things about open world games are usually good, I would say, but sometimes there's a couple kinds of open worlds that I don't think are as good. Like, for example, where it's like this big open world, but literally every single thing is marked on the map, and you're like, oh well. So there's no discovering I can do, there's no exploring. I can just mark that. I can mark something on the other corner and go straight there and then get whatever collectible or whatever there was, like a mission or something. And then there's ones where it's a huge, beautiful world and there's nothing in it. And you're like, wow, this is great, but like, you could have cut the size of the game in half, and it would have been probably better because you could have put that development into more.
I'm very glad that we've already done our Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom episode, because that game is kind of the perfect blend of both. Those games are the perfect blend of both, where it's like, hey, there's a lot of you can see and just do, and like you can go from the beginning and it's obvious what you have to do. But then there's also a lot of stuff where it's like, hey, this area is empty. But the thing is, like, even with that map feeling empty at times, there's still a lot of things to do in the world where it doesn't like feel empty. Like there's always a Korok puzzle right there. Mm-hmm. There's always something. I think Red Dead, on the other hand,
I think Red Dead is.
I think it's more of like the world would be okay. If you took the exact same game of Red Dead Redemption 2 and took out the concept of roaming NPCs, and other than hunting and fishing, that game it does lose a lot there. Because like the interactions that can happen of like just a random guy walking up to you on his horse and being like, "Hey, this is happening in my life right now."
This is really random. I just thought of something that is really funny that happened in one of my, I think probably like my first playthrough, and I just really want to say it because it's so funny, and it also just shows how literally anything can happen in this world with the people. So,
I want to get into that in a minute.
I'm riding through the middle of the woods at night, and I see a fire in the distance. I'm like, oh, fire! I'm gonna see if that's like something cool. And that's like you were saying. Part of the reason the game is so cool is because even if there's nothing specific to do in a particular area, it's like an empty area of the forest, there could still be NPCs there that are doing something, and that kind of makes it interesting.
Yes, exactly.
Like a whole empty riverbed, but then there's one guy in the middle with his mule panning for gold, and then you can talk to him or something. And I think you can even...
Eventually, if you wait long enough, he'll find something, and you can either kill him for it, or he'll be like, hey, actually take this.
Yeah, I think you can also...
Sometimes they'll offer it to you, sometimes you can...
You can't pan for gold, can you?
You cannot.
I don't remember if you could.
That is one thing I wish that you could do, is... I wish there were more interactions with certain things. Like,
I don't really think it's necessary, but
you know
it would be neat.
Do you remember the group of builders in near Valentine that are building their house when you need the lumber cart? I think it would be cool if you could be like, well, you know what? I'm gonna go chop the lumber myself.
Why would an outlaw do that? It makes sense that an outlaw would...
He makes a decision to be a good person in that case.
Okay, hold on real quick.
He's like, hey, I'm gonna... Because
he also steals the cart for money.
No, you can buy it. You can also walk up to them and buy the cart.
You can. You don't have to.
Yeah, but I usually do.
And then he gets paid for it anyway. My point is,
I usually do because I usually outright buy it, because at that point it is genuine. Like, it is hard to run away from the law with a giant log wagon.
Nah. You just gotta leave it there and then run away and then come back. Actually, I don't know if that would work. Anyway, so what I was saying in my story earlier. So I'm going through the woods. I see a fire.
You're walking in the woods. There's no one around, and
phones weren't invented yet. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot him.
Arthur Morgan.
We're not gonna continue because of copyright. I don't know. I don't really know. Anyway, so I go to this fire, and there's this guy sitting. He's sitting there. He's just like right outside his fire with his little tent, whatever. And he's like. He stands up. He's like, you better get moving. He gets up, steps right into the fire, and proceeds to fall over and start screaming because he's burning to death. And I just sat there and watched. I was like, is this happening right now? Because like, I couldn't help him anyway. Like, what am I going to do? So he got really bright, and then he got really dark, and then I left. I just left him there.
Left well done.
Yeah. No, he was probably well done.
So I mentioned the man's name just a few moments ago.
So would his clothes be the shell then?
Stop it! What? Like, is he a Wellington in that case? Are his clothes the outer casing of the Wellington?
I mean, he was only
bread.
He was only cooked for like a solid 30 seconds. Like it wasn't that long. So.
Okay, so I mentioned the man's name just a few moments ago, but I do want to talk a bit about our protagonist, Arthur Morgan, who is. I firmly believe, and you would probably say
the best fictional character ever made. Yeah,
I don't know if I would go that far, but he's definitely the greatest video game character ever made. Yeah, because like I'm sure there are like other arguments for like he's definitely in that top 10.
He's number 1.
I think you could probably guess my number 2 favorite fictional character of all time. It's Jay Gatsby. So...
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just really like that movie, man.
Old sport. That's not how he sounds.
Me
at all.
Me dressing Arthur to the nines. Whatever. Arthur Morgan's probably one of the greatest fictional characters of all time, and
he is.
And Dutch van der Linde also up there.
He's a couple spots lower, I'd say, but he's also very
good. Yeah. Arthur is the perfect protagonist for this game, and I think
he's big, he's strong, he's fast.
He's a tough as teak mountain man.
He's ruggedly handsome.
He's a tough as teak mountain man.
He's
a tough as teak mountain man.
A pussycat, according to
a woman,
women,
and Javier. Don't forget Javier. Don't forget the quarter.
And the quarter. Don't forget the quarter. Shut up, Arthur.
Dutch. This episode is going to be filled with a ton of just loose references to dialogue. Please, even if you don't play this game, please just look up interactions between the characters.
Or just look up funny moments.
Lenny, my boy.
Lenny!
And also, I highly recommend you guys check out, there's tons of footage of the cast talking about their experiences working on the game on various panels. Mm-hmm. They are wonderful people, and their stories are also wonderful to listen to.
Our time has passed. Our time has passed.
Yeah.
I almost actually fell backwards.
That, honestly...
I was just going to commit to the bit and just go straight back for a second, and I was like...
That would have been so loud.
Yeah.
The entire house would have woken up.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good. But that's okay.
It is too late for that to happen. Don't do it. Don't do it. So, Arthur Morgan, the arc of this character...
Arthur James Morgan. The video game character.
I don't think he has
that's probably not his name.
I don't think he has a middle name. Arthur Morgan, the arc he goes through in the story is wonderful. And again, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a lot of choices that you have to make.
Which can be different depending on the honor level.
Yes, 100%.
You can be neutral, you can be good, you can be bad, you can be somewhere in between.
He is a man. I think, honestly, the best description that I have for Arthur is a description given to him by another character, which is, there is a good man on the inside, but he's wrestling with a giant.
A very handsome giant.
Arthur Morgan is
He's a very handsome man.
He's the toughest teak mountain man.
All right. You get 3. You said it 3 times, that's all you get.
I think I've said it more than that.
Well, you said it 3 times in this recording. That's all you get.
No, I'm sure I've said it more than that already. He's a very customizable character as well, which is something that I thoroughly enjoy, especially like when you compare it to GTA 5.
Oh yeah, GTA 5 is like, you can get a different beard, you can get a haircut, you can get clothes. In this game, it's like, you can put different boots, pants, suspenders, spurs,
chaps,
holsters, chaps,
masks. You can do individual pieces of your facial hair,
masks, hats, helmets, jackets, shirts, lions, tigers, bears. Oh my!
Tables, ladders, and chairs. Steel chair, steel chair. Arthur Morgan with the Schofield.
Two of those animals are in the game. Maybe not for a while, but they're in the game.
Yeah. Lions and tigers?
How horrifying would it have been?
Panthers.
When you're in a certain area of the game, and there's just a straight up tiger in the woods there. That would have been horrifying.
We are going to talk about that section later.
No, we will. Yeah, but that would have been horrifying.
The clothing, like everything about this game, it is wonderful. You can customize your facial hair. All the clothing has
like fabric.
Yes.
Honestly, it acts like real fabric.
Wait, clothing has fabric?
You know what? I meant all the fabric has texture. That's what I meant. It reacts like, for example, if you walk into the mud, like to your knees.
Oh yeah.
And then walk out. To your knees will be covered in mud, and then you could walk into a river and have it wash off. But it's not like, oh, you walked into dirt and then walked into water, you're suddenly clean now. There's like levels to it. You can get cleaned in the rain. Your horse can get dirty.
If
you can clean your horse off more.
If you're standing in the rain, you can watch rain drip off of your hat.
You know,
if you're standing in the snow and you walk into a warm building, the snow will melt off of your character.
Something
slowly.
I actually don't know about. So in the game, your guns can get dirty, and you actually have to buy a gun oil to clean them. Do they get clean in the rain? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Because I don't think they do. Because I mean that wouldn't really work in real life, obviously.
I don't think
like you can clean mud off of them, obviously, but like it's not gonna clean like the rust.
I don't think like that would be like asking if you pull out your guns when you're like deep in a river.
I mean, if you go from mud to a river, it would work. But I don't know. I'm saying like I don't know if it would work in like cleaning the rusty kind of texture off them. Which obviously that is one thing that's more video gamey about it, because like sometimes because just using the guns gets them dirtier, which obviously does occur in real life. But for the most part, all of that's on the inside of the gun. Like you're not just gonna get a bunch of rust all over the outside of the gun because you've been shooting it a lot. That's not how that works. And also especially how fast it is, but because it can't be a real time game. Because everything would just take way too long.
Well,
so, like it makes sense.
I mean, there are certain aspects of it where like it is a very time based game, and like good example, like obviously like Arthur's hair grows over time, and like your beard grows over time.
Unless you just drink like 27 hair tonics and just sleep like a couple times and then wake up.
If you drink 100 hair tonics right before a cutscene, you will go from clean shaven bald to full hair, full length beard in one cutscene. That's assuming you have the best satchel at the beginning of the game, because it takes a lot of work.
Oh, about carrying them all, yeah.
Yes. Arthur is a wonderful protagonist. You can go through this arc of going from bad man to great man, or bad man to even worse man. And
the one thing I do like about Arthur, even when he's evil, he's fully self-aware of the fact that he's not a good person and he's evil. He's not delusional. But it's funny. He's delusional the other way. When he is a good man, he doesn't think he's a good man. But then when he's evil, he's fully aware of the fact that he's evil.
Yeah.
But I think it's more just because he doesn't like himself because he's been bad for so long.
I think he's just he's a very realistically self-loathing character.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like not a very common thing in video game protagonists. So I don't think it's more of a thing where it's like he is doing this. It's more like we are noticing it because other characters don't.
I mean,
like we don't hear Kratos talk about his faults. He's just like, I'm a warrior. I do what I have to because I have to.
I mean, I would disagree. In the new games, he does talk about his faults, but it's whatever. So I think one thing we should talk about is just the world and just how. I think part of the reason that the game is so immersive and stuff is because Rockstar just went ham with the details.
Oh, yes.
Literally everything just feels so real. I remember there was a time where we were hanging out at your house and we just sat there for like, I feel like it was an hour at least, if not more, like an hour or two, and we just played poker in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure we went into first person and just played poker.
I was genuine. Okay. Funny context. I was just genuinely teaching him how to play poker.
Well, I know how to play. I just haven't played it in like forever.
Yeah, I know. So I was reteaching you because I was reteaching you hands and stuff and how they work. I used to play a lot of Poker Night 2. Fantastic game. Great game. You cannot buy it anymore. Fantastic game. Great game. You cannot buy it anymore. It is a shame. Look up the Table Conversations. It's a really fun game. It's made by Valve. It is a crossover poker game. It's awesome. Can't play it anymore.
The point is, that is a whole poker game, and Red Dead 2 is not a poker game. It just has poker in it, and it has better poker.
No.
Yes.
No, because you can buy people drinks to make them drunk to see their tells in Poker Night 2.
That doesn't make the game better.
It's a more in-depth poker game.
That's not the poker aspect.
Okay, well, whatever. Poker in Red Dead is one of my favorite things to do.
The point is, the side activities are so good in Red Dead 2.
There's poker and blackjack and...
The side activities in Red Dead 2 are so good. You can just play the game just for those. Like, I've talked to people who will literally be like, people who enjoy fishing in real life will be like, yeah, I will just play Red Dead 2 for a while and just fish in the game.
Moist Critical has a several hour long stream of trying to bust out an entire poker table, and it is just him and one guy for like the last 2 hours.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
The last 2 hours is just him and one guy. Because I think he's trying to go for a trophy. Because there is a trophy or an achievement to bust out an entire table, a full poker table.
Don't remind me.
And he sits there for what I believe is a total of 7 hours in real life trying to bust out the whole table. And it's crazy. And that's awesome. And there's also blackjack tables. And like you can go hunting and fishing, which are also one of my most favorite things to do in that game.
There's also Five Finger Fillet. There's
dominoes,
which sucks. Don't play dominoes.
I can never learn how.
I don't.
I just don't get it.
I mean, I played it one time and just never tried to learn because I was like...
Well, you mean in real life or...
No, in the game.
Because you get... those interactions also trigger some of the request dialogue.
Well, I only just did it to try everything in the game. And also you do it for a trophy and stuff.
Tilly asks... You can only trigger Tilly's request for her missing brooch if you do her game of dominoes. And
that's one of the few things I would change. Not that specifically, but how some requirements for certain things are way too specific. Not many. There's like
don't even get me started because I'm gonna yell when I'm trying to play the game next and I'm trying to get that jacket from Pearson.
There is a custom jacket that a character can make you, but you can't buy it from them, and you have to have a very specific set of circumstances.
There is a similar jacket to it, but like this
is a custom one. You can only get this way.
The model is called Scout Jacket. It's a jacket that exists in real life. It's like a real type of jacket. All of the other ones are made of just like what would probably be canvas. The specific one that this character gives you is like very clearly made of denim, and it's like that rich, like faded, slightly denim blue. And
you mean indigo?
No.
Denim is made with indigo.
Shut up. So it just looked really good, and it's awesome. And you can only trigger it in like I think the second and third chapter. And the requirements of it are like you have to be malnourished. Basically, you have to have not eaten or something. Because he'll be like, Mr. Morgan, you look a little peaky. I'll make you some rabbit stew. And you'll be like, I'll do that. And then you do that. And then
also, I like how he's like, hey, you look a little hungry. I'll make you some rabbit stew. Go get me a rabbit. And it's like, what? You're going to offer to make me rabbit stew? You don't have the rabbit to make the stew? And you're like, well...
that's a lot. There's a lot of requests like that. Where it's like you'll have Jack... John Marston's son, asking you to find a storybook. You'll have Dutch asking you to find a tobacco pipe because he lost his. And then when you get it, he doesn't even freaking use it.
Arthur, I need a new pipe, Arthur. I can't do his voice.
Because he loses it in the Blackwater Massacre.
Is that when he loses it?
I do believe he says that.
Dutch.
You can't.
Hold on. Arthur. I lost my pipe, Arthur. I was too busy murdering that poor girl, Arthur.
I thought we said we weren't going to talk about spoilers.
Technically, that's in the first game.
I guess you're right, but this is a prequel.
But, like...
Whatever. This game is one of the most detailed things I've ever seen. You can sit and watch a singular NPC's daily routine all the way through, like for their full 24-hour day. From them waking up to going to the saloon, to playing poker, to eating, to going back home and sleeping again.
Characters actually eat. People who are like doing jobs actually do jobs. Lumberjacks actually cut down trees and they fall.
And they can kill you.
They can fall on you and kill you. People, like there are a couple house builders in the game, actually build the houses and will move like plywood around. Well, not plywood, but they'll move planks around.
As you go through chapters of the game, there's a a lumber company up in the western. No.
Yeah,
over in the western portion of the map, and eventually they've done so much work that when you go through that area again, the game like does a whole pan out to be like, look what they did, like look how much of this forest they've removed.
And I think they're not there anymore because they're like, we got to move somewhere else.
Yeah, they're not there anymore, and the camera does a whole like cinematic cut of like, hey.
I don't think it does that.
Yes, it does.
At
least the first time that you go through the area, it does like a whole like, hey, look at this.
I don't think so, but it's been a while.
At least I remember that.
Well, you're delusional, so like.
That's not entirely accurate, but we'll go with it.
It's not entirely inaccurate.
Okay, so you can go through the world and doing all these things, including interacting with all these strangers. Like there's a wildlife photographer that needs help with his photos, and you like he has a bag of meat to lure wolves in order to get photos of him. Then they steal the meat, and then they try to attack him, and you save his life. Then he's forever indebted to you, and by that I mean you run into him multiple times, and he does stupid stuff every single time, and you have to save him multiple times, and then he almost falls off a cliff.
Lives. We were eternally grateful.
I was really trying to not say that. Really hard. I was trying really hard. Thanks.
Well, I wasn't, so that's fine.
There's a pair of prisoners named Mr. Black and Mr. White. I don't think that's... I don't remember.
Is it a Johnny Test reference?
It's not, though.
Is it a Johnny Test
It's reference? A white guy named Mr. Black and a black guy named Mr. White.
Is it a reference to the secret agents with named the same way in Jonathan Test, the show?
I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure it's a reference to something
Jonald?
else. Get that out of here. Is his name
Jonald?
Get that out of here. You can genuinely actually turn them in or help them because they have wanted posters in town. You can either tear down the posters or turn them both in. And then you'll eventually find them later in the world living in a treehouse because they fled.
That's the end of that. That's not the beginning. Also, they're 100% a gay couple. Like, they're not a gay couple, but they're like, they're a gay couple.
I don't think they're a gay couple.
I think they're a gay couple.
I don't think they are.
I think they are.
I don't think they are. There's one man in this game that might be gay, and he's an artist that kisses you on the mouth.
I mean, he is French.
I was just going to say, he is a Frenchman, though, so that might be pretty... No offense to our French viewers, if there are any of you.
With all due respect, full offense to our French viewers. Like,
I mean, you can wave your white flag all you want. Because it's stained with something. So...
Piss? That's R. Kelly, never mind.
Wow! We're just biting the bullet here on all these.
I have no fear about insulting horrible people, alright?
That's fair.
Also, that's not even an insult, that's just a fact.
Alright. There are countless missions that you can do in the world where you are helping people, where you're like harming people. There are missions in this game where I've never done. There's a whole interaction at a railroad company that I have yet to see in my own gameplay.
See, that's something I want to bring up. This game has been out for just barely over 6 years at this point, and we are still finding out things about it.
Like, there are...
Every time I will look up...
There are workers working on a railroad hammering in spikes that actually, like, go in further. There are... One character that is in the Van der Linde gang has a singular lens of his glasses with a bifocal lens. There's no way you would know that unless the camera was that close to his face.
Mm-hmm. But Rockstar's like, we know.
Yeah, exactly.
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
I wonder if Pepperidge Farms does mangoes in Tahiti. Stay away from Guarma, though.
What? Never mind.
Now, I also do want to talk a lot about the gunplay, because again, we're talking about things that make this game great. We're talking about things that make this game great. And the gunplay is one of those things, because you have the classic Rockstar, and by classic Rockstar I mean because it's a similar engine. You have the GTA weapon wheel with more realism in that you can only carry what you can fit on your horse.
It's like, hey,
you can carry.
Have you ever wanted to be a cowboy?
You can carry two.
Have
long
you ever
arms.
also wanted to be Max Payne? No, you can.
You can carry two
without the diving.
Can you stop?
You can dive actually.
You actually can dive.
Yeah, I was like, you can dive. I rarely do, but you can do it.
You can carry two long arms and two short arm? Is that the word?
Handgun.
Handgun.
Short arm?
You know? I don't.
Handgun and long gun.
Handgun and Hambone?
Hamboning?
Hamboning.
You didn't watch regular show. God.
I really hope that picks up.
I really hope it does too. But you don't even get it. You didn't watch regular show.
I've seen that clip. It's very funny.
I've seen that clip. How dare you?
Oh my god. I'm getting there.
Whoa! What? Okay, I'm done now. What?
The gunplay in this game is fantastic. All of the guns are extremely realistic and pretty historically accurate. Two of them,
except for the fact that because it's a video game, most of the guns are good.
Dual wield reload. Dual
Take
wield.
a breath. Collect your thoughts.
Danny and Arnold. Dual wield reloads are a handful, and by that I mean literally, they're a handful, but they're just not right. Also, dual wielding just wouldn't really be done.
I mean, it can be, but especially nowadays, but back then. What I was gonna say is because it's a video game, there's no real guns that are just horrible. Even though in real life some guns are just bad. It's yeah, they're neat, but why would you ever use it over anything else?
Yeah,
But then it's a video game, so it looks cool, so we're gonna make it good.
Then there's things that are just objectively perform well. There are, let me think, it's 5 revolvers? Cattleman, Double Action, Schofield, Lamette. Oh, it's 4. 4 in the main story. That's it? There are 4 revolvers in the main story, and there are 3 different types of pistols in the main story. And in online mode, there's an additional revolver. 2 of those revolvers use paper cartridges, and if you were to mod in a photo mode, you would be able to see that they do have those paper cartridges. And all the other guns are heinously accurate when it comes to their visuals and interactions.
If you look through the front of the guns,
there's rifling.
Yes, I mean it's a little bit over exaggerated to what would actually be in a real gun. You wouldn't be able to see it as easily, but you can see the rounds in the chamber, and once they're fired, you can see the empty shells still in the chamber before you reload. And it's little details like that. It's you wouldn't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't
unless
know.
you looked, but all these little details together, it's okay.
Coalesce.
It's it's one little detail here and one little detail there. It's not going to make or break the immersiveness or the realism of a game. But when you have quite literally hundreds, if not thousands of them all put together, it's just I could live in this world.
Yeah, 100%.
Because when you get sucked into a game, an open world game that has a lot of stuff you can be immersed in and stuff, if it doesn't look realistic sometimes, or things are just really off about it, you can get sucked in because you're enjoying the game, you're playing it, but it doesn't feel real almost. Red Dead almost crosses the line where it can feel real. Yes,
it also I have to say there's also a certain cinema to it.
It's almost to a detriment, but not quite. If the game aspects of gameplay were any more realistic, it might start to get just being all right, I'm trying to play a game, I don't want to do chores, but it's not there yet. I would say
some of the epilogue can feel like that.
Yeah, but that's different because
it's on purpose.
It's on purpose in that thing, but that's not the overarching gameplay. That's specific acts you're doing. It's different. I'm saying for example, in Red Dead, when you let's say you're on your horse and you run by a deer and you shoot the deer and you go to get off the horse and skin it and do all that stuff, and then put it on your horse and you can take it somewhere to sell it or something. In Ghost of Tsushima, for example, when you're on your horse and you see something, whether it be an animal that you hunt and then take the resources from it, or or you see a flower. You can just click a button and you have it. Is that great?
Yeah.
For like convenience, yes. And does that work for that game? Yes. But like,
would
that work in Red Dead? No.
No.
And like it works better for Red Dead that it's more immersive.
I thoroughly enjoy that because like I don't think there's anything much more satisfying, at least in my eyes, when I'm like when I'm doing all the fishing and hunting, because I also do a lot of it in the online mode.
You sir are fish.
Yes, like the dialogue that Arthur has when you're fishing, and
dialogue Arthur has at any moment.
Roger Clark also nailed this performance.
He's just a funny guy.
Like, Roger Clark nailed this performance. He's wonderful at playing the character. And like it's the little things of like you can go fishing and hold a fish in your arms until it dies, and then he'll react and be like, "Oh."
I don't think I've ever had that happen.
I have because
I probably just sit there.
I think I've set my controller down after doing something and watched a fish die.
What? I know. I think I've had animals that if you have them on their horse for too long, they'll start to rot, and you won't be able to like cook anything.
Yeah, you won't be able to
take
sell
it
to
camp or whatever.
But yeah, Arthur is.
So I think now is the time that we should probably start talking about the story a little bit, not too much. Because I still don't want to spoil any. I don't want to spoil most of it. Obviously, I think we should talk about some of the most like really important moments. But
just generally speaking, this is your hard spoiler warning. At this point forward, like everything you hear is at your own risk.
Yeah, this is. Play the game, please.
We have been like making loose references to things that happen. As somebody who experienced the story late and knew a lot of the things, I really wish I didn't.
No, I wish I didn't either. I'm honestly, the ending probably would have made me cry if I didn't know what was happening.
Same thing.
I was still upset.
Same here.
I was still upset, but I don't think I didn't. I knew already, so I could kind of prepare it, which sucks because that's happened to me multiple times and I hate it every time. But
that's happened to me with a lot of games.
I've not just games like movies and stuff. I've had it happen, which sucks. But anyway,
so the gang is up in the woods of Amberino. By the way, in case it's not, we've not mentioned it. Red Dead takes place in a fictionalized version of America, just like GTA does, where they use fake names for everything. The gang starts out in the woods. They've just left a very hot area. And by hot area, I don't mean like a physically hot area. I mean the law is after them and they cannot be in that portion of the map anymore. Like, for a large, and by that I mean the entirety of the first 6 chapters, you are not allowed to be in the southern portion of the map because you just performed a massive robbery and the entirety of every single police force in that area is on your ass. And you can't be there. So you flee up into the mountains, and the Pinkertons are attempting to catch you. Rival gang is there. You try to steal their score. You run down the mountain. Then you're in the main, like, central portion of the map.
Pretty much, you go to an area of the map, and then Dutch is like, Arthur, we need more money. So then you rob something.
This is every chapter,
and then you have to go somewhere else.
Every chapter is you do a bunch of shit. You take a bunch of risks, and then you do a bunch of cleanup, and then you move.
Yeah.
So, you do that several times. At a certain point in time, this is where the hard spoilers come in. Your character gets sick.
Oh, you're starting with that.
Huh? Yeah. You fist fight a man who is later revealed...
You do not fist fight a man. You beat a man. There is a large difference.
Okay, you're one of the members of your camp.
One of the members of the gang
is a loan shark.
Is a loan shark,
and you are the muscle of the gang. So they send you to enforce those loans when people aren't paying up. You beat the hell out of a man who owes the gang money, and you eventually find out he is dying of tuberculosis and dies of tuberculosis because of the injuries that you give to him. And he, at some point during that beating, spits in Arthur's face. And it's 1898. 1898?
99.
99. It's 1899. There's no cure for tuberculosis.
Also, he's not like, oh, I'm spitting in your face because I'm angry. It's because you just beat
You beat the hell out of him, and he just
and he's like he's coughing up stuff, and you wipe the blood off your face, or whatever, and it's the blood and saliva, and then that's how you get it, and then
so you get sick, but that's not revealed until
chapter
3 chapters later,
right?
You can push off
that's
going
4, chapter 6.
Yeah. You find out in chapter
6.
No,
5 is Gorma.
Right, you find out in chapter 6. Chapter 2 is when you have to do the mission to go after him, and chapter 6 is when you find out.
Also, because it is technically a side mission, but it is pivotal to the game, obviously to the story. So what a lot of people have been trying to do is, I've also done it, is where you try and do as much content as you possibly can to see how high. No, actually,
every other Deader mission is considered a side mission. That one is a yellow mission. That one is an actual story mission.
So what some people have been doing is trying to get as much content done as they can before they. Because if you put it off long enough, eventually the game will make you do that mission. Because obviously it's important.
It's a scripted mission.
It doesn't do that with any other story. But I think it's because people knew, Rockstar knew it's like, either one, this mission's important, obviously, you have to go do it. Or two, when people are replaying through the game, it's like, you're trying to put it off. You can't. You won't. It'll happen anyway. I think the highest I've gotten to is like 73% done before.
That's crazy.
The game. Well, because you just run around collectibles and hunting and all that stuff.
Basically, chapters 1 through 5, well, chapters 1 through 4 are the regular heisty stuff that the gang is trying to do. Chapter 5 is you accidentally ending up in another country because you tried to flee from a heist on a boat, and you end up in
not Cuba.
Not Cuba. Gorma. It's called Gorma.
It's essentially Cuba, but just
it's basically Cuba.
Not Cuba.
Which is Myles' favorite portion of the game. It just gets repetitive and annoying. I just don't
It's fun. It's not that long. It could have been better.
The biggest problem with Gorma is that you can't go back, and there are animals that you can miss for your compendium.
Yeah.
Which is important for trophies. Which is why I will absolutely never platinum the game.
I will one day.
That game is...
It takes forever, but it's fantastic.
It takes forever, but it's fantastic. Gorma, you lose all your stuff. You get back from Gorma, and like 1 or 2 missions later, Arthur collapses in the middle of the street, and you go to the doctor, and he's like, hey, you have tuberculosis. And it's at that moment where, as a character and as the player, you have to kind of make these like pivotal decision of like, do I really want to continue down the path of what I've been doing with the gang this whole time? Or do I want to die? Do I want to die a good man? Or at least, do I want to die a better man than I have been?
Well, throughout the game, the honor system has been in the game the whole time, and you can choose whether you want to be good or bad. But I think just being a good person is like the canon version for Arthur.
By the way,
even more so, when you get to that point in the game, Arthur, the character, just has a real what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Your honor, the honor is occasionally physically manifested in animals.
Oh yeah, like Arthur sees like visions and stuff. Like he has.
You will either see like a deer with yellow light.
It's like a stag with a kind of like sunset kind of light, or it's like a wolf.
A wolf in like a dark moon,
like the moonlight.
And in
which I'm pretty sure canonically means there is an afterlife in Red Dead. Like explicit, there is an afterlife.
Oh, that's great.
I believe.
I would believe it.
I think that's what that's supposed to represent.
And also, at the end of the game, when you visit... Spoilers, you don't always play as Arthur. I mean, I just said, like, do I want to die a happy man? So, I mean, I've made it pretty clear. Arthur does, in fact, pass away at the end of this game. From one of 4 different ways. And by that, I mean one of 2 ways. We'll get there. You can, when you're visiting his grave, if you were a good man, an eagle will be near your grave. And if you're a bad man, I think it's either vultures or ravens.
I don't know.
I'm not 1,000%. It's either an eagle. It might be an eagle or nothing.
I think it's an eagle or nothing. I think.
But during the story, when Arthur is finding this out, if you're a good honor, he'll see a manifestation of a stag running down the street, and if you're bad, you'll see a manifestation of a wolf running down the street, and you follow it, and you start hearing things that people have said to you about your life and everything. And it's this whole big moment where Arthur's like, oh my god, I'm dying.
The thing is, it's not just... I think him getting tuberculosis is metaphorically and literally... Metaphorically and literally the final nail in the coffin. But before that, up until this point, the gang has already been falling apart. People have died for sometimes legitimate reasons, sometimes for
very stupid reasons.
Whatever. And Dutch is kind of going crazy because of Micah. Micah's heavily manipulating him, and he's becoming just less of a good person and more about money. And there's a whole talk on whether or not it's like, so has he always been like this, and he's just finally revealing his true colors, or was he entirely manipulated?
I truly believe that Dutch gets a concussion in the one robbery in Chapter 4.
He does, and it definitely makes him a little worse, but like...
I think it's entirely possible that Dutch was like that from the beginning. However, I think
it was probably more 50-50. I think he probably has some inclination of it, but...
like, if it starts, it's something we haven't seen yet. Like, if it is before, it's just something we haven't seen yet. Because, I mean, in a perfect world, Red Dead 3 is another game before this one.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the Blackwater Massacre. And I know, I've talked to multiple people.
It won't work.
I've talked to multiple people about the potential of seeing the Blackwater Massacre. And they're constantly saying, like, if we see it, that takes away the mystery.
Yeah.
I don't think the mystery needs to exist for the player. I think it is fine for the mystery to exist for Arthur.
I disagree.
And for us to have that knowledge eventually.
Why?
Like a few games down the line. Well, because for one thing, at least like from a visual standpoint, like I want to like, why did he shoot the woman? Why did it go bad? Because remember, they were like, there were a lot of people there. We think that somebody had found us out. So like, it's possible they had a rat all the way back then. Remember? So like,
that's another thing we should mention. So Micah manipulating Dutch to be more just not good is not just because Micah is crazy and evil, which he is. He's also
a rat.
A goddamn rat. You rats. Speaking of rats, real quick tangent. One thing I love about Arthur is that even if you're horrible as Arthur, he's still not a bigot. Even if you are max, like, low honor Arthur, he still hates and will happily kill the KKK. The KKK is in this game. It takes place in 1899.
There's also, like, a very open racist in Saint Denis that you can kill, and the cops won't even stop you.
The cops, yeah, you can kill him. Cops won't stop you. You actually get good honor for it. No one bats an eye, and the game is like, good job.
Nice.
Yeah, the reason I say that, speaking of rats, is because after you kill the Klansman, Arthur's like, hooded rats. And the first time I did that, I went, Arthur, you're a good man. You're a good man, Arthur Morgan.
That's funny. But yeah, the first 4 chapters. Also, I want to talk about a little bit really quick. Chapter 5, the details here. Arthur gets sunburn in Guarma. Like, they're there for, I would say, a few weeks.
He gets sun cooked, dude.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say Guarma and getting thrown overboard on a boat definitely did
severely exacerbated his illness. Yeah.
Yeah, and so did getting shot in the goddamn shoulder.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then
you have to perform surgery on yourself a little bit. And,
you get kidnapped at one
pull
point.
A shotgun. They shoot a slug into your shoulder, right?
I don't remember. It's definitely a shotgun.
They shoot it.
Or maybe it isn't, because I feel like it would just blow his shoulder off. So maybe it's not. We're remembering wrong.
Maybe it's a slug. No, I think
a slug would go straight through his shoulder.
I think it is a shotgun.
Maybe we're remembering wrong.
Or maybe it's a rifle.
Or maybe it's just not realistic because it's a video game.
I think it's that.
It's also very likely.
You are out of commission for like 3 weeks after that off screen.
Obviously, it's just like a time jump.
Yes, it's a time cut.
Point is,
that's also one of the best missions in the game.
The reason we're saying just like little bits and pieces like this is because the story gets crazy. Go play it. Please go play it. It's literally like the best game
also,
ever.
My favorite part of Arthur getting sick is a little chain of missions with a woman named Charlotte Belfort.
Is it Belfort?
I think it's Balfour.
Oh, maybe.
Or whatever her last name is.
Let's say Jordan Belfort?
Charlotte is a woman.
I swear to God, if he pops up as a person in the description of this video because I said his name, I'm going to be a little annoyed.
Charlotte is a widow who you find up in the top region of the map. Like, literally, like, holding
top right corner.
Holding a funeral for her husband, effectively.
Her and her husband were from the city, and they were like, we're going to go live in the country. And then...
they realized they weren't made for that.
And then they realized, oh...
And her husband gets attacked by, I think, wolves or a bear, and does not... And he survives the attack, but succumbs to his injuries. And she's like, I haven't eaten days.
He dies, she runs out of food,
and
Arthur stumbles upon her, and then
Arthur, despite his state of being a dying shell of the man he used to be, decides, it's like, you know what? I can't let this woman die like this. And...
You can?
Yes. You can. Intentionally or unintentionally. Because you can stumble upon her and not do anything, and then come back and she'll be dead.
That happens?
Yeah, if you don't do any... If you walk up to her to
start... If you meet her and walk away, that happens.
Yes.
Because I know... The thing is a little weird. So there's some things you can leave for John. Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah.
Huge spoiler.
Yeah, by the way,
Arthur
as
dies,
I was saying...
You play as John in the epilogue.
You die and play as John in the epilogue, just like in, spoiler alert, Red Dead 1, when you die as John and play as his son in the epilogue.
Mm-hmm. Like, if you never meet her or certain characters and then play as John, which canonically takes place 7 years later. 7 years later?
7 years later.
No, it's 1907. 8 years later.
8 years later.
You play 8 years later. The characters are all still there. Like, some of them have aged, yes. But if you haven't done the missions, and some of them are still there. Like, you can, and I think there's one with one
characters
guy.
Will have visual age differences.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them are like the exact same.
But a lot of them, there's a lot of them where if you finish it as Arthur, you can go back and you will get dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Point is,
you can do some stuff as Arthur and then finish it as John. Not a lot of it. Some of it.
There's
like,
some, yeah.
There's exceptions. Like there's one stranger mission that you can start as Arthur, and then you can finish it as John. Because if you start it as Arthur and then finish it as Arthur, you don't get to keep the reward.
Oh yeah.
Because the reward is a horse, and all of Arthur's horses go with him.
They don't all die, but
they don't all die, but you just don't get them. So the one reward for one of the stranger missions is a horse, and if you do it as Arthur, you don't get to keep that horse. So you can start the mission chain as Arthur, and then finish it as John, and you'll get dialogue being like, "Hey, do you know Arthur?" Or it's like, "You might know my friend," and then he'll mention Arthur and whatever. My favorite thing, like back to Charlotte though, Arthur like goes through this whole arc with her, has a whole tuberculosis episode. And she like nurses him back to health, and like basically in return for this whole thing, then you can have this whole wholesome moment with John later.
Also, I will say, I know it's because it's a video game, so who gets it is scripted, obviously, but it's a little surprising how pretty much everybody in the game is always so eager to help Arthur when he's sick, even though they're just as likely to get it from him and then die because of it.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, it's a video game, so they don't have to worry about it. Because if
Charlotte,
unless they're written together,
Charlotte putting Arthur in her bed is a massive risk.
I think it's a spare room. I don't think it's her bed, but even still, in her house at all,
that's an entire room.
The entire camp. My point is obviously that doesn't happen because it's a video game, and they write who will get sick and who doesn't. But in lore, it's very surprising how everyone's like, "Oh, let me help you. You clearly have an illness that's going to kill you and is highly contagious. Let me grab you and lift you up and put you right next to me so we're breathing the same air." No offense, I don't think I'd do that. I'd be like, "Oh, are you dying? I'm just going to stand over here and I'm going to make sure that no animal eats you, but I'm not going to touch you and help you out. I'll wait till you're good. I'll let you sleep it off, but I'm not touching you."
But yeah, so I think we should talk a little bit I don't think the epilogue, other than the fact that American Venom is one of the greatest video game missions I've ever played. Mm-hmm. That alone. Oh, also, I need to backtrack a tiny bit here. The greatest, most perfect cinematic mission in the game is storming Braithwaite Manor. And it is a shame. I've been thinking this for a little while. It's the only thing I want to bring up about the mission because I would rather people experience the mission itself. But it is absolutely criminal that is the one, like, big massacre-style mission that Dutch is like, Micah, stay behind. So I feel like this is the one time that, like, even Micah would be like, yeah, I'm in on this. And he would be on the same page with everybody. I just feel like it would have been cooler if he were there.
No, because then I'd be like, oh no, my bullets accidentally entered your face. Oh no. Oh no, I accidentally lit you on fire with a Molotov cocktail or threw several sticks of dynamite at you. Oh no, Micah. Oh no.
So yeah, Micah is an informant at some point. Whether or not it's like right after Gorma or if it's before is never directly revealed. But like he ends up being the crux of all of the problems. And you have a boss fight with him as Arthur. This is
call him Charles Entertainment Cheese because he's a rat.
Oh yeah,
he's a rat.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chuck E. Cheese is a rat.
He's a rat. You know it, and I know it.
Why do you sound more like Denzel Crocker from Fairly Odd Parents?
Because the voice I did was too high. Anyway. So there's a big heist at the end of Chapter 4, which leads into the entirety of Chapter 5 when you get on the boat and try and hide, and you end up going to, not Cuba, Gorma. During that, a couple of gang members get killed, and John gets captured. So in the final chapter, toward the end, after you get John, there's a camp interaction where Dutch fully admits that he was going to let John swing. He was going to let him get hung. He was going to let the police kill him. He was totally going to let it happen. And that just shows how much Dutch has changed, because before he was like, John is my son. Obviously not literally, but he's like his adopted son almost.
Along with Arthur.
Yeah. So in the final mission, before like the final mission, it's the one where they lead into
context,
each other.
At some point Arthur goes and saves John, and that is when like Dutch fully turns on Arthur, because he's like,
I had a goddamn plan.
The reality is, obviously, that plan was to let John die.
Mm-hmm. So, the final mission that leads into the final two, it's or the first one of the final two, where it's like, all right, we're gonna do one final bank heist. We're finally gonna get enough. We're gonna do one final heist, not a bank. We're finally gonna get enough money, and we're finally gonna be able to get out of here and leave. So, you go to the robbery. John gets shot. He falls behind. Dutch is like, oh, I'll go get him, and then they go off to go get him on the horse. You continue to do the heist. You get back. By the time you get off the train and they catch up, they're like, oh, John's dead. Like, we couldn't save him. So then some things happen. The Pinkertons, who are this non-military detective agency, who are
a real existing,
it's a real thing,
still existing detective agency.
They are corrupt.
That has, in most recent memory, has been hired by the Yu-Gi-Oh company to stop.
It wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh. It was Hasbro, I think. Pretty sure Hasbro hired them. Hasbro, please don't send Pinkertons after us.
The Pinkerton Detective... Also, fun fact, the Pinkerton Detective Agency tried to sue Rockstar for accurately portraying them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're horrible and they're corrupt. Anyway, they're like non-military, or like police.
They're like legalized bounty hunters, effectively.
Yeah, but that's just what bounty hunters are. They're like a private police force almost. Anyway, they
you can hire them.
They kidnap Abigail, who is John's wife, and
not yet, but eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's his wife. It's not legally, whatever. And Jack's mom. So they get out with the kid. They kidnap the wife, and then Arthur and Sadie. Sadie's a great character. She's one of the best. She's one of the best characters in like the best written, but she's also like one of the best is in she's a good person. She's on like the good guy side, so to speak. So you guys go rescue her, and then that's when you find out that Micah's a rat. Arthur goes back to camp to pretty much expose him and be like, so Micah, so you're a rat? And then Dutch doesn't believe it or whatever. And then during this whole argument, John shows up alive, and he's like, Dutch, you left me to die. And Dutch was like, son, I had no choice. And he's like, you left me to die, god damn it. And then like the whole fight starts, and then Pinkertons show up, and then it's a huge gunfight, and then you have to get away, and pretty much from there is where you get the endings. Before we get to the endings, I do want to say that a very pivotal moment that happens in the story, on the way riding back to camp, Arthur at this point has fully accepted he's gonna die, and he's kind of having a good song plays in the background, a kind of sad song, or more somber.
It's called Unshaken by D'Angelo.
That's not Unshaken.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's not?
That song does not play at that time. That's the way it is. It's not Unshaken.
Oh, you're right.
Anyway, you will hear like voices and like just Arthur will like think of things that's happened throughout the game, and obviously they'll be different depending on your honor. And it's kind of like a reflection moment for him to be like, all right, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be for the little bit that's left of my life.
Not knowing that it is literally a few hours from now.
Well, I mean, either way, he's going to die very soon because how bad his disease is getting. He just doesn't know it's going to happen a lot sooner than that. Or maybe he does, and that's why he's reflecting. It's probably that. So, that whole scene happens. It's very good. Anyway, you get to the camp, you confront them, do all that. I said that. And then you get to the option of the endings.
And basically at that, I think
it's 2 endings with 2 variations for each, high and low honor.
I don't remember who exactly tells you, but I think it's either Abigail. Okay. Abigail tells you, "Hey, Dutch has been hiding the money from
like all of our
heists and everything that we've been doing in the cave system behind his tent." Mm-hmm. So your choices are in the moment: are you, as Arthur, going to return back to camp in an attempt to get the money, or help John escape? Now, obviously, one of those sounds like the right choice, but you can do both regardless of which are. Choice. One of those sounds like the right choice. One of those sounds like the wrong choice. And obviously, there are 2 different endings because you can have good or high honor versions of both. Like, if you have low honor and you go back for the money, you shoot out Micah's eye, or maybe you stab out his eye.
I feel like it's
and then
more...
when you play as John, you'll have Micah with one eye during the boss fight.
I will say awesome. It's not really a good or a bad ending. It's more of a horrible, like, worse ending or the best you're gonna get. There's no good ending.
Because even Roger Clark has gone on record saying...
Yeah, he's like, there is no good... Like, it's like, oh, I got the good ending. What good ending? It's more just, like, the best ending you can get. Also, now that I think about it, going back for the money makes literally 0 sense. Because over the whole course of...
Why would Arthur care? Because, I mean, even if he doesn't even if he doesn't know he's about to die, what does he need it for?
I think it's more of him getting it maybe for John or to help John. But even then, his whole... Over the course of the final chapter, he's like, I gotta help John, Abigail, and Jack. I gotta help them and get them out of the gang. I gotta make sure they live through all this. So why would he get all the way close, like do all of that work, and then when he finally has a chance to protect John and help him get away, when there's Pinkertons and other members of the gang after them, he's like, what if I just money. Like, why would he do that? It doesn't make sense. I think it's just to have more options instead of just one ending, which is fine. It's cool. More stuff's always better, usually. But like I've never done that ending. I never will do that ending. It doesn't make sense. I don't like it. I don't want to do it.
I think I might on at least one of my playthroughs because I just want One-Eyed Micah because I'm pretty sure there's dialogue differences.
But I mean,
I think because he'll call you Scarface, and then I think Sadie will say something like, "Look who's talking," which is great. But the best version of the ending has Arthur fighting Micah, and he fights off Micah and then succumbs to his injuries as the sun sets, or sun rises actually. And earlier in the game, Arthur had said something like, hey.
No, it's at a party. They're all drunk. They're all having a party.
And they're all asking, like, hey, how do you want to be buried, or how do you want to die?
And I think Arthur says,
face me towards the rising sun so I can think about... face me towards the west so I can look at the rising sun and think about all the times we had out there.
It's something along those lines, which conveniently is how he dies, and then that's how he gets kind of buried too. So,
but what it leads to also is this as wholesome as it could possibly be, as a man is dying in front of his adopted father, who is gone mad.
That moment is not wholesome at all.
No, okay, not from in the perspective of the game, but from the afterward of the actor's perspective. Because acting out that moment made Benjamin Byron Davis cry off screen.
Yeah, but that's not in the game.
Whatever. Dutch and Arthur have this 2-second exchange where and Micah's there too, where Mike is like, Dutch, come on, Dutch, we can finally leave, we can go back for the money and do everything.
I don't think Dutch is not reverted back to who he was, but he definitely has a moment of clarity and realizes, like, what have I done?
Yes, and
he's like, I can't do anything, but I'm just gonna walk away.
Arthur said, Arthur's like choking, like unable to breathe, and he's like, I gave you all I had. He's calling Micah a rat, and Dutch has this look on his face like, oh, I don't really feel good about this. And instead of like following Micah into whatever Micah was about to do, he just walks away.
Well, I think it's because in that moment it suddenly becomes real. Because before, the arguing and pointing guns and even shooting at each other, it's like not...
That's all for show, maybe.
No, it's not for show. He's definitely trying to do it. But like, I think as soon as he sees essentially his adopted son that he's taken care of for over 20 years dying at his feet, I think it suddenly all clicks and he's like, oh my god, what have I been doing? What have I done?
Yes.
And then when Micah's like, come on, like we can still do this, he looks up and realizes that Micah... Even though it's his fault,
could have been the problem.
It's Micah's fault. Is it also Dutch's fault? Yes, but he's like, what have I done?
Which is, I think, a big part of the reason.
What have I let happen? And then he just walks away.
Which is, I also believe, is a big part of the reason why Dutch does eventually take that shot at Micah during American Venom. Mm-hmm. But what we don't see is, after Dutch walks away, because it's just not in the game, Benjamin Byron Davis, the actor who plays Dutch, just fully starts crying after that scene, which is also just a big show of like how important it was to them in the moment too. And I just think that's a fun tidbit there.
Well, I mean, like, when you work on a game,
oh yeah,
when you essentially are a character for 5 years, like,
and even longer for him because he had played Dutch already.
Oh well, yeah.
And yes, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a masterpiece, and we've been talking about this all day. But again, like, you guys really need to play this game, because
if you haven't played the game, you shouldn't be hearing this.
Oh yeah,
straight up.
At this point, like, if you haven't played the game, you now know enough. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't play it anyway.
Honestly, with all the information we've given you, you got the big spoiler and big whatever. There's still so much to discover that we didn't talk about.
Like, the beginning of the epilogue is like just genuinely a good fun time, like being a farmer, and it's enjoyable. Like, at first you're like, why am I doing this? And then like a mission or two later, you're like, oh, okay, I'm trying to make a life for myself in this world 8 years later, which is weird because, like, why would it take this long for them to be trying?
They have to move around a lot. They say that.
Yeah.
The epilogue actually has 2 of my favorite missions in the game.
Oh, the Hanging Dog Ranch.
Mm-hmm. Hanging Dog. Yeah. I love that mission.
You storm a ranch that another gang is occupying.
There's like dozens and dozens of people here.
For the record,
and John and 2 other guys roll up with a bunch of guns and just go, "What's up?" and then proceed to wipe out the entire camp.
And this is after John has been doing his best to be retired for several years. And then he looks at his wife and says, I have to do this. And she does leave for a while. She is very mad at John for that, and like leaves. But you do this whole storming a whole ranch thing, and it's like, oh my god, the real John Marston is back. And like John at the end of the mission does the whole actual iconic Red Dead Redemption 1 cover pose, and it's badass. And it's the real arc of like, this is when the epilogue really begins. And that's kind of like a good place to end it.
Because I think as soon as that happens, you go from Jim Milton to John Marston.
Yes. The only real complaint I have is playing as John. I mean, for one, he's a lot less charismatic, but also they were just a tiny bit lazy with implementing him.
Yeah.
They for those of you who don't know, instead of just using his story model from the beginning of the game again, they put him over Arthur's skeleton and stretched out his face and head model
It doesn't look like horrible. He just looks a little different,
wrong,
a little weird.
Arthur's body type is not John Marston's body type.
John is skinnier and more lean.
He's not lanky.
He's a little lankier, yeah. Arthur is more of a broad kind of guy. So
like it's like the combination. Like it's like trying to put like Waluigi into Mario's skeleton. You can't do it. But I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Because I mean, if we talk anymore, we're gonna have been here for
the
forever.
point of this video is to tell you should play the game. That's the whole point. Just play the game. Please play it. Please play it.
It is the greatest.
It is one of the most successful games ever. It doesn't need our help, but please play it. It's so good.
It is a cowboy. You can be a cowboy.
I want to be a cowboy, baby.
No, I know what you think I just said is that I want to be a cowboy, comma, baby. But I, in fact, actually mean that I want to be a cowboy baby. I'm in the middle of my
I'm a goddamn mother hacking cowboy.
I'm in the middle of...
was a cow and my mama was a boy.
I'm in the middle of my tuberculosis arc.
Stop! Half cow, half boy. Something. Who would lie? Life's a nightmare.
I think this is a good place to wrap it up. This game is a masterpiece. It is realistically the greatest game ever made, even if it is still number 2 on my list. It has a wonderful soundtrack, wonderful gameplay. The cast of characters that we were relatively vague about, other than John, Micah, Arthur, and Dutch.
Charles is great.
Charles is great. Sadie's great. The ladies of the ladies of the Vanderlyn gang are all great and have like awesome relationships with Arthur.
Literally all of them are great because even the bad characters are bad on purpose, so like it's good. It's well done.
And then there's also like the missed romance arc with Mary, and it's like,
just play the game. Just play the damn game. Play the game. Play the game. Play the goddamn game.
So I think, like, again, just do everything you can to play this game.
Play the game. Play the game.
Let's hope that Red Dead Redemption 1 gets a next-gen kind of remaster, at least, or some sort of something in the Red Dead 2 engine. Because after playing Red Dead 1 after Red Dead 2, and also maybe because I'm playing it on the Switch, it's a little hard. It's a little hard to do that, to take that step back. At least for me. After playing the masterpiece that is 2, like, the story, obviously, I'm invested. It's just, like, from a gameplay perspective, it's hard for me to go back to 1, so I'm really hoping they do that soon. But, obviously, with GTA 6, like, being a genuine obstacle on that path from a better franchise.
Yeah, unless a side company does the remake, which I doubt will happen because it's Rockstar, we're not going to get anything new Red Dead related probably until like 2028 if I had to guess.
I think we got to wrap it. It's been a fun one. It's a masterpiece. And pretty soon we are going to talk about the online mode, because I mean that's a whole different can of worms that I just like to rant about, honestly, and I wanted to keep it out of this episode because I wanted to gush about this game, not complain.
Obviously, we didn't talk about a lot of the story, but like, just play it. Just please go play it.
Yeah, I think it's better.
And if for some reason you were so opposed to the fact of playing it, then go watch someone else play it.
Hey,
just watch all the story.
Is Red Dead Online free still?
No, I don't think so. I think it's ever been free.
Huh. I vaguely remember
it's only free if you buy the game.
That's
so it's not,
right.
So it's not free.
I do think it's cheaper than the game, though. So
well, yeah, obviously, but like,
I don't know if like you can buy online and then get a discount on the story. Is what I'm saying.
I don't think so.
Well, whatever. I highly recommend that you play Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a fantastic game, and there's a reason it was our number 2 on both of our lists. I think it goes without saying that like Rockstar really knows what they're doing with big awesome stories like this. As somebody who recently has played through a pretty sizable chunk of GTA 5, I'm just really happy with what they're doing, and I'm very excited for GTA 6 when it comes out next year. So let's
allegedly.
hope. Well, right now it's apparently not getting delayed anymore.
Allegedly.
We'll
see.
Yeah, Rockstar's great. Red Dead Redemption 2 is great. Arthur Morgan and Roger Clark are great.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Go play the game, please. Please play it. It's so good. And yeah, we will see you in the next one.
Smash that subscribe button. Hit that like button.
You know, I thought I almost got away.
Add this video to your favorites.
Don't do that.
Do it.
Don't do it.
Do it.
Don't do it.
Hit us with a comment. Tell us how you feel about Red Dead Redemption 2 and about our video.
Tell us what you had for breakfast. We don't care. We will not respond, but like, tell us.
I might respond. We're gonna wrap this one up, guys.
Well, we will
have a great
see you
one.
next one. Bye.